is 6:30 on Wednesday, March 15th, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. First up is our consent agenda. The minutes from February 7th. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll take a motion.
Make the motion to approve the minutes for February 7th, 2023.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is warrants 50, 51, 53, 54, and 56. I think we're missing one to sign. I don't think, was 50 there in that pile?
51, 56, 53, and 54.
Yeah, so 50 is not in our pile to sign. We can still approve it because we have a copy of it in the folder, but I just wanted to make sure. Any questions or comments on those? I'll take the motion. Go
I
ahead.
wanted to double check. They are all in the folder though,
Mhm.
because I know I looked, I thought all of them.
Yeah, I remember looking in that there were 5 in the folder. 5 on the agenda, but I think I only just signed 4.
Yes,
Okay.
there's only 4 here. Sorry.
All right.
I'll make the motion to approve warrants 50, 51, 53, 54, and 56.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So it's just 50 that needs to be signed?
Yes. I didn't go through the whole thing to see if it was like somehow caught up, but I didn't see it. Next is the hockey co-op. Oh, oh, there we go.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good.
Evening.
So, next winter, boys ice hockey, South Hadley's numbers are dropping, which is who we cooperate now with, and our numbers are going to probably drop too with the graduation. So, Chickabee's athletic director reached out to South Hadley, us, and the Chinese Immersion School about forming a co-op with Chickabee's high school's teams. So in hopes to keep a program alive for our returning boys, we would want to get in that co-op if possible.
Okay.
How many do we have returning?
I believe 3.
Only 3.
Yeah, I think we had 6 total and 3 are graduating.
And it's for grades 9 through 12?
Yes. So yeah, there might be an up and coming 8th grader that I'm not sure of.
Right. And is it high or comp?
Both.
Oh,
yeah, their
wow.
numbers are very low too.
So there would only, wow, okay.
This was their first year together, Chickabee High and Chickabee Comp, but they're also graduating and numbers are hurting, so.
Who's the host school? High or comp?
Good question.
Just out of curiosity, it doesn't matter one way or the
Yeah,
other.
I'm not
just
sure.
curious.
I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know how that would work though, because they have to go somewhere else. You said,
Yeah, like South Hadley was the host school for this past co-op, and their home rink was Fitzpatrick and Holyoke. And then other teams like use Olympia and Cedar Arena.
I believe Chickabee plays at Fitzpatrick as well, so that wouldn't change as far as their travel and stuff. It's just different color jersey and more schools that they're combining with.
All right, so you just need a vote. Any other questions?
I guess I'm just curious, is South Hadley a part of it, or Chickadee as well, did you say?
Yes.
Or Pioneer Valley? Okay.
Yeah.
So 5 schools: Granby, South Hadley, Comp, High, and Chinese Immersion. Is it Pioneer Valley, Chinese Immersion?
And not Holyoke?
I don't believe they could be, but I don't believe so.
Does Holyoke have their own team?
I feel like when I was speaking with Eric from South Hadley that they didn't have anybody that was interested this year. That's why they weren't part of the South Hadley Granby co-op.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I'm not positive, but that's what I remember.
Okay.
now changing that, like change any of the, like, as far as like how the co-ops work? Adding in them?
It
like
shouldn't, it
rates
didn't
or?
have an impact when when they realigned for swimming. It was South Hadley and Granby, and then it became South Hadley, Granby and Holyoke, and just whichever, like, instead of an orange cap, it was a purple cap, because it was the Holyoke Knights, so. If Chicopee is sort of, whichever Chicopee school is the home thing, then it just resides under there, so it would follow the same co-op rules as what we have now, right?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Any other questions? I'm glad that we're trying to do something to keep hockey going. That's good. If there aren't any other questions, I'll take the motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the hockey co-op.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
One question before we vote. Is this like a done deal if we vote on this, or is it waiting to see what happens with returning numbers or interest, or?
I want to say it's a done deal.
Okay.
I told Sean Mackey's the AD from Chicopee that I needed your guys' approval before we could.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we
Yeah.
weren't, eliminating something if South Hadley decides to do it, but South Hadley's in it, so. All right, all those in favor?
I have one more question.
Oh.
Is it a one-year thing?
I think they come back.
Yeah,
with-
no, most
Really?
co-ops are 2 years minimum.
Yeah,
And then usually once you're kind of in one, you're,
in it until you're not.
yeah.
Just clarifying. Felt like that was something.
All
Okay,
right.
I'm good.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Okay, and also an athletics update.
Yeah, so I guess just this spring we have a lot of new hires. A new boys lacrosse coach, Curtis Leduc. New girls softball coach, Rich Roy. New girls lacrosse coach, Gary O'Grady. And that's it for new coaches, but there was 3 new hires at the varsity level this spring, which was kind of a lot compared to all the other seasons, so.
And a quick recap on the winter season.
So winter went fairly well. Our girls played in a really tough league, struggled record-wise, but when they started playing some opponents more in their range toward the end of the season, they found some success. Boys basketball won the league, had a little trouble in the tournaments. Swimming, the co-op, we had some individual success, and our ice hockey guys got to the into the tournament and lost in the first round.
Girls swimming was league champs.
League champs, 1 loss.
That's right, to
Very-
an out of league.
Very good league. Very good season, yes.
I'm not invested in that at all.
In our wrestling, we had 2 qualified. One was an Amherst kid for the state tournament. So did some good things there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
And they're doing volleyball right now, right?
So yes, sorry, Chad Gagnon is our volleyball coach.
He's
and
returning though, right?
Returning coach, yes.
Volleyball's up and running, captain's practices, I've seen them a few times.
Yeah, their numbers probably tripled this year, so it's very popular. It's growing. Still got to figure out the JV position.
Oh, is that a position that you still?
Yeah, it's still open.
So we have boys volleyball, JV and varsity, an open position for JV volleyball. Baseball, varsity and JV, softball, varsity and JV, lacrosse, varsity.
You said we already filled the softball varsity.
Yeah, no, I'm just,
Okay, sorry.
Rattling off what's in the spring.
Yep, so
Got it, sorry.
lacrosse is just varsity only, and then every other sport has JV varsity.
Okay. Excellent. Any other questions?
And it's just the 1 or 2 coaches that you're looking for, the JV, volleyball, that's it?
Yep.
Okay. All right, that's good, because I had people asking me about some of the coaching positions, so I was like, I have no idea, so. Excellent. We just had the winter sport, spring sport meeting, so they start next week, right?
Yeah, Monday, opening day.
Crazy. All right.
Snow just in time.
Every year,
Yep.
seems like every year. All right, any other questions? Thanks so much, Dylan.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dylan.
Okay. Visitors' comment. Any citizen wishing to speak before the committee must sign in with the administrative assistant prior to the opening of the regular session of the school committee. The visitor will identify themselves by name and address and shall speak for no longer than 3 minutes. For anyone who is unable to sign in ahead of time, we ask that you clearly state your name and address so that this information can be included in the record for the meeting. Do we have any visitors for visitor comment? Okay. All right, new business. C-Tech placement and snack shack. Ms. Jordan.
Hi, everyone.
Hi there, how are you?
Fantastic. I have a copy of the COA. I have a white copy if you'd like that one instead. Okay. Kathy Berger's husband, Ken Berger, teaches at CTEC in the landscaping program. Kathy and Ken both reached out to me to start the conversation around providing their services. We can call them donation services, if you will, of their time and materials that they come with to help them do improvements at the snack shack out back or before the start of the spring season. That was our thought a day ago, but with the snow, that we understand that it might need to have some flexibility with the schedule. So their thoughts as of right now is they would bus the students here as they would any other school where they do projects, and Ken would be on campus with the students, so they would be under the direct supervision. It would be at some point during the school day, during typically when they would have that class, or after school gets out, so whatever, we'd be really flexible. Our facility director would need to be involved only to make sure that they had access to the back. They're looking to have their students work on the countertops to repair them, to prevent water from entering, the removal of the top cabinets, the removal of the table, the addition of rubber matting for their feet, painting and sprucing up that area in general, repairing the walk-up area. As you know, there's a section where the curb has really deteriorated to a point where, like, it's a trippable hazard, right? If you're not paying attention and it's not marked with spray paint. So they would like to fix that area with rock and make sure it has some type of lead up as opposed to the step up that it currently has. So all in all, they're really looking to all hands on deck out there to really spruce up that entire area, all from their services.
So if they remove the cabinets, what would they put in? Would they replace something for storage? Or?
I think the plan is to repair. I think they want to remove them, take them down, sand, paint, repair.
Okay.
And then I would assume a reinstall.
Okay.
They did provide a certificate of insurance that we have, and I just gave Todd a copy of.
That's nice. So C-Tech is in West Side, right?
Yes. We have 2 students that currently attend C-Tech, and that was really what started the idea in the partnership, right? We have students there, and then obviously the connection with Kathy working for us. But it was awesome. It's really exciting though, because you hear of like Pathfinder, how they go out and have placements.
Mhm.
So I think this could be a nice beginning of quality partnership there to have some improvements done.
Excellent. Do we need to vote?
So because it is donation of time and work, we figured it was best that we accept it as a donation.
Any other questions?
Not a question, but how exciting. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for
Yeah.
these kinds of opportunities, I feel like it's just so nice to hear that we keep getting these things that people are thinking of us and finding creative ways to keep things improved and looking nice, and it's just really nice.
It's so great because Kathy spends so much time out there in the spring and in the fall, so it's nice. That's
Yeah.
really nice. She knows it better than anybody, I would think. Maybe except for the Carillons. That's awesome. if there aren't any other questions, I'll take the motion.
I'm trying to think of how to.
I'll make the
Go
motion
ahead.
to approve the donation of time and work from the CTEC placement for the snack shack.
I'll take a second.
I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And thanks very much to Kathy and her husband for helping get this going. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is the school year calendar for 23-24. Gosh, this seems crazy. Okay. All right, well, I'll let you.
Okay, so I think you'll find that this mimics this year's calendar pretty closely. So we start the second to last week of August with new teacher induction for 2 days before all staff returns on that August 24th and 25th for professional development. First day of school for grades 1 through 12 would be that Monday, August 28th. We did maintain that Friday, September 1st as a day off, as we have the past couple of years. I think teachers and students and families have appreciated that, connecting to that first holiday weekend, because I know there is a sentiment that, you know, school always started after Labor Day, but I think we're seeing now with snow days in mid-March that you know, starting much later could push us out further in the summer too. So it's a difficult balancing act. I think a couple of things to note in this calendar that are a bit different. The East Meadow Parents' Night got moved back a week to a Thursday. The feeling there was with the pre-K and kindergarten not starting until that September 5th, having a little bit more time with those students before having them in for a parents' night would be helpful. And then they kind of chose to push it from a Wednesday to a Thursday, similar to what they've had at the high school. We did make a shift on what had typically been Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. A number of districts have made that change. We were one of the few who had not. We also moved a professional development day that we had in May to February. I think if you remember at the beginning of this year, we voted to amend the school calendar because the day in May fell on an MCAS day. So by moving it to February, we avoid MCAS, and you know, there was also a feeling that having it earlier in the year rather than late in the year, you might get some more out of the professional development. But those were, I think, really the key pieces.
The November 7th, that curriculum day is really because it's election day.
Election day, yes.
Right?
Yep, so that is our full curriculum day. And then this was shared with the GEA for feedback, so I shared it with Cheryl Danette, gave them some time, and essentially they came back and felt that it looked fine as is. So we moved forward with that with a couple of those minor changes that we had discussed.
Any questions or comments or discussion on the calendar? Hearing none, I'll take the motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the school year 23-24 calendar.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next up is school choice. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I'm totally blanked that I said that.
Again, I don't know that it'll
Um,
line up anyway, but
We're gonna push this one back a little bit so we can have George here for the discussion, and we'll just come back. I totally forgot I said that, but he's supposed to be here sometime after 7, so we'll circle back to that one. Thanks for that, Stephen. Next is the Unit A ratification.
I did speak with Kimberly about this prior to. If there's going to be any discussion, we should go into executive session. But if there is no discussion and she said it was just a vote, we can move forward with the vote.
Is there any discussion? Because we can adjourn to executive session and come back if you'd like to discuss. No? Audrey?
I don't,
Do you want to we can just go in and have like a 5-minute conversation so that everyone's on the same page and come back
Okay.
for the vote?
Sure.
So do I have to read the whole thing again? Okay. Okay, we're going to vote to enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Part A3, to discuss strategy with regard to collective bargaining, as doing so in an open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee. The committee will return to open session. Okay, rejoining after that executive session conversation. So without any other further questions, I'll take the motion to for the Unit A ratification.
I'll make the motion to ratify the Unit A contract. Is that what we want to say? Sounds good?
Can I have a second?
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next is the statement of interest.
So Jen has a script she can read. The one thing that I do want to point out, I do think I pointed it out in the update this week, if you were able to read it, is there's some minor changes, just updating things in this, but on page 4 of the document, so it says SOI program core, that's the only option this year. You might recall, as inflationary costs went up, MSBA made the decision not to offer their accelerated program this year, which was like a more targeted, like you're going to replace all your doors, you're going to replace just your windows or your boiler. So they're not offering that this year. The core is the only option. In the past 2 years, we, under potential project scope, we had listed renovation addition as an option. This year I clicked repair project. I can certainly go back. I don't anticipate from MSBA's side it would make a major difference, but as I was thinking about it, I think there's a feeling outside of this room and outside of the schools that we're just looking to knock down that building and build something new, where that is certainly not the intention. That is not the only way that I think our end goal can be achieved, per se. So it's minor. I don't know if anybody will read these 18 pages, and in particular page 4 where this difference is. But I felt like for you all, I wanted to point that out and see kind of your feeling. I can certainly go back. It's one click in the document that I can change it. It wouldn't change anything for tonight's vote, but in the application, I did make that minor change. Where it says other at the bottom, ST, I wrote student in front parking lot, but I think there's a character limit on it because it doesn't come out this way until you save it. So, that's really just one thing I just wanted to point out, and I'm open to any feedback.
I actually like the repair projects because based on our joint committee conversations and things, we've said that I stand by it. Like you say, the only option isn't to tear down that school. If we can get on a plan to get some of these major repairs done and, you know, the walls are fine. It's just, you know, the people inside are great, you know, can't find many better. But I think it's, you know, it's part of the conversations that we've had. We're not looking to just raise taxes and everything else. We're trying to fix what we have. So I like that change for whatever that's worth.
Agreed.
Yes. So on the doc, page 4,
Yeah.
that's not replacement of or addition to? Number 7? Does that need to be there, or is that,
So those are like the priorities that you can click, right? Like, so that's some of the stuff that, for the past 3 years, we've maintained those.
yeah,
But I think if you started picking that apart, there's room for interpretation. To
Right.
my point about the contract out there, that, you know, like, we've included both of those priorities, and later in the document, we write about number 5 and number 7.
yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
so, but, yeah, so I can certainly unclick 7 if you felt that was necessary, but those things
I
have
just
not
don't-
changed from past submissions.
right. I don't think we need to, but then is it, I guess it's a redundancy? I don't know, because where was the other spot where it was clicked, or it's up at the top?
You
It's-
write about it later in the document, so I can find it, but it's probably pages like 16 through, it starts on page 11. Yeah, page 11, it talks about priority 5, and you're responding to questions related to priority 5 and then priority 7. So you could click multiples, but you are exactly right. There's definitely some redundancy throughout this document.
Right.
I think some of the language, some of our responses are,
I know, I'm just, you know, like any two words can be interpreted anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like if we're saying one thing and then the actual document goes out and it says,
Because I mean,
A
just reading the way this,
redundancy.
if your SOI program potential project scope is repair project, any of the top 8 doesn't say anything about repair. It's replacement. So replacement could be repair, I guess. I mean,
right,
I see what you're saying, but I think it's, we're within the parameters of what the document's offering
right,
us. Because then when we put down repair project, everything that we have listed is in both number 5 and number 7, so.
right.
and right, like.
I'm just
you
noting,
know,
like,
no, I know, but
I
I-
feel like it's good to have that transparency of that we're having the conversation. We do, you know, recognize that it's a spot that we're clicking intentionally, but that to not, I guess, read between the lines in that method, in that way.
Mhm.
I think it's just how you can choose.
I
'Cause we're
also, sorry.
I was gonna say, because we're clearly not like elimination of existing severe overcrowding, you know, not for the high school.
No,
And to be honest, under project scope, I listed quite a bit,
Yeah.
right? So it's not
correct, yes,
like we're just saying windows and doors, and
Right.
then we're like, oh, and the HVAC. Really,
boilers,
I'm listing the entire building in that piece. But I think what we're also saying is, if the student parking lot per se doesn't get done in this iteration, okay, then we know that, and we can look at other means to do some of that, so.
sorry. What percentage of the building is heated by the boiler? Supposed to be 100. Sorry, couldn't help it.
It's a hard-working boiler. The two of them are really
Toast.
hard-working.
It's been a long day.
They
Okay, I'm good.
put in their due time. Yes, yes. They don't work well together.
I just think there could be more narrative there. No, just kidding.
So roller game.
I was gonna say, there's some solar being on the front side of the building.
All right, if there aren't any other questions,
I do have another question. Is the town aware that we are putting this back out again? I know we've had several conversations.
I sent this to the town manager today because we requested that I get on a select board meeting by the end of the month. I think it's next week.
Because I make sure, like, I want them to know that obviously we realize that if we don't put the interest out there, then there's nothing we can get done, but we can always decline or
Yep.
step out or whatever, so,
And those are the conversations that I've had
You
with
know.
folks in the town to say, we want to submit this so we can keep the conversation going, because if something happened where it was available and we weren't in this,
Correct.
then
shame on
we're a
us.
whole another year behind. So
exactly. Which is
my intention is, as long as I'm here, this
Yeah.
will be a
Yearly thing.
Yearly line
February or
item.
March vote, and hopefully at some point we make some progress with it.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the MSBA 2023 Statement of Interest.
Oh, I have to read it, sorry.
Oh.
Okay. Please use the text below to prepare the, okay. Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 15th, 2023, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the School Committee of Granby, Mass., in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form no later than April 14th, 2023 for the Granby Junior Senior High School located at 385 East State Street, Granby, Mass., which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Number 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating, and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility. Number 7, replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance of or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the Granby Public School District to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Okay,
Easy.
not easy at all. So do we just say aye now? All those in favor? Aye. Someone probably should have seconded that, but can you just second that?
I'll second it.
Great. It says that I'm supposed to sign something, but.
Yeah, we'll draft it and then.
Okay.
next time.
All right, moving right along. Student transportation contract.
You let Todd take that one.
So last week, last Wednesday, the contract bids were unsealed. There were 3 bids provided. The lowest bid across the 3 districts that are were soliciting the bids, Ware, Belchertown, and Granby, was a company named DACO. They are out of Connecticut, and they had the lowest bid for complete services for each of the 3 districts. Provided a breakdown for you, and so ultimately we are, so their regular day run at 7 buses is $580,734. The contract bid was to do 100 days of late bus, but we do 1 a week. But in the bid process, it was $17,862, so $178.62 for each late bus run. And then 100 trips for athletics and field trips. And that was $35,724 plus $9,000 for wait time for drivers. So for that part 3 is $44,724. The major difference in DATCO's bid versus the other 2 bids was mileage charge. So they don't include a mileage charge. So for a comparison, first student for the current contract that's expiring for a regular bus for the day is $420.27 plus mileage, where DATCO's $460 and 90 cents, but no additional mileage. And then one of the big differences was in the athletics and extracurricular. First student was $185 plus mileage, and then also $45.75 per hour for driver wait time. DATCO was $357, no mileage, and $30 an hour. So although it's $172 more for the bus, we're saving $60 plus $1,000 in fuel or mileage charges. So that's how they were able to, or coming with the lowest bid. So, and then there was a breakdown for all 3 in the packet. So.
I have questions, I just don't know how to ask them.
Yeah, I guess my question would be like, do we, like the bid's the bid, like do you go back to a place that you've used and be like, hey, guess what,
No, that's. I
It just
guess
seems
the
so
essence of
crazy
the
to-
sealed bid process, everybody has the same parameters that they're bidding on, and then we're required to take the lowest bid based on being able to meet those conditions or those parameters. So I know, yeah, I understand where you're.
Yeah, well, it just seems kind of silly to go out of Connecticut. I know it's the lowest, but I don't know, I'm also thinking of like our bus drivers and like there's a lot like kind of in my head with it.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
No, I understand those. I don't know where all of that will land.
Because I feel like over the years, I'm sure a lot of us have formed relationships with the drivers we've had, and so.
Well, I'm just thinking like if it's nice, we have the first student office, I think they're right in Belchertown, so if there's a problem, you call there, and it seems like they're quickly, so do we know if they'll have like a satellite office here, since there's some, we don't know,
We
or
don't
we're
know.
saying
We
no?
don't
Okay.
know, right. So we don't have any of the logistics yet.
So how
I
does that?
suppose in essence, until the 3 school committees approve the contract and the contract is signed, it's still a pending contract. And then once it's set, we can start getting all those logistics lined up.
Because that's one of the things that I've been thinking about too, is that if it's somewhere in, how do they plan to help service us if there's a problem? Like, are the buses coming from Connecticut every day?
That we don't know. We've asked some of the same questions in reverse, like what
Right, like a
happens
bus
with
goes
that
down, we gotta
student
wait
satellite
until-
office? Is that something that DATCO ends up taking
Mhm.
over?
Like-
Yeah, because that's not their main office.
Right.
Right, they have that satellite that they set
Right.
up, that's,
It's likely leased through a school, so
Right.
do they work together and so? I don't know some of those.
so it's unsettling to me, I know we don't really have choice, but like these are questions that I would like to know before we're like, oh yay, we're gonna approve this bid, and it's great that we're saving money, but sometimes I don't know.
Well, we're not necessarily saving. What is this over the previous year's contract?
It is an increase.
Oh, it's an increase, I thought you said
The
the other.
total is an increase.
bit, yeah.
I thought we were talking about it the other day with Chris Martin, that it was less.
It was less than what we anticipated.
Oh, okay, got it. Misunderstood, my apologies.
So Granby is, first student was $641,060 a year under the last contract. DATCO is $643,320, so about $2,000 difference.
Which, if we had stayed with Student First, would have been $62,000 more.
Right.
But yes, some of the same questions we've had about relationships with the drivers and things like that. I don't think there's any reason that if you have questions, we couldn't try to get you some answers to those questions and put this back on for a vote on the 28th. That I don't know that we will be able to answer every one of those questions, but we can certainly inquire.
Like in the bid, does it give the current routes essentially that we have now and
So that was part of the
timings?
bid
Like,
fund. They were given the routes that we have, the
Mhm.
number of buses, the ridership, all of that, so that each of the companies, so it was a level playing field for any company that wanted to submit a bid. And I know that we mentioned this a few meetings ago. If we're looking to make alterations, it'll be once the contract is completed. There's provisions for the superintendent to request changes.
and I guess my last silly question is, we're required to take the lowest bid. That's like a state thing?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So, I mean,
It makes sense. I understand it.
so part
I
of me
just
feels
did not
like it
know
doesn't
it.
really matter what questions we have, because regardless, we're sort of bound, like,
Right.
we're sort of bound by the bid process, the way that it stands.
Correct.
We can have our questions on record for, like, once it's all signed in, like, how things are going to work, or
Mhm.
whatever, right?
Yeah,
So,
and we can follow up on those questions whether you vote tonight or not. Either way, if you want to send any questions you have to Todd or I, we can get them out to TMS. TMS led the bid process through Ware. So we can reach out to them, and if they don't have answers, be it DATCO or whatever, we can reach out to them as well.
You're saying DACO?
DATTC.
It's on the bottom of the first page.
it's like their letterhead.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
DATTCO.
So, what are your thoughts, ladies? Do we go ahead and vote? Because essentially, it's
Yes.
really sort of like,
It's the process.
it's the process, but if we have questions, we can send them along so that they can be considered once everything is finalized, so we make sure that we don't lose track of what it is that we're thinking.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think families might have similar questions in terms of, like, will this change our bus routes? Will we know the drivers? Who can we reach out to if there's questions? And all of those things are gonna come up and,
Right.
and for conversation.
And
think it's good to
honestly, I
follow up.
want to give them a bit of, the benefit of the doubt. I'm thinking that they're going to reach out as the new transportation company. I'm sure that there's some kind of a process, or, for lack of a better word, onboarding, where they're going to try to reach out to make sure that people know and everything. Because one of the things I want to make sure that we do, and I don't know if that's always been like a first student thing, is they have for the kindergartens and the preschoolers, like the bus day at kindergarten orientation. So I imagine that would be something, because I think for a lot of them, it'll be the first time they've ever been on a bus like that. So I just want to make sure that we don't lose some of those things as well.
And I'm looking at this too, it's saying this is like the same as before, it's a 1 year, 3 year to ABC, okay. And then do they do also did we do something with the buses where like by the third year oh no, that was,
I think
that
you're thinking
lunch.
Chartwell's.
I think that's lunch. Anyway, okay.
So I think we can probably go ahead and vote on it, and then if we have questions, we can send them to you.
Yep. And I'll
Just
put a
that-
reminder in the update this week just to send questions on this to Todd or I.
Because really, the bottom line is it's part of the process, so a lot of our questions probably won't be figured out. And truly, we don't have any leg to stand on if we don't agree with the answers to the questions, because we're in it with 3 other towns, right?
Yeah.
And we're obligated because it's the lowest bid process. I don't mean to sound foolish, I'm just
No.
walking through my head
Yeah.
to make sure that it's like one of those things where if the budget doesn't get voted on at we don't really have it,
Yep,
Yeah.
smile and nod.
smile and nod. So, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the student transportation contract.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, discussion on the policy IJOA, the field trip policy.
So I'd just like to make a recommendation to refer this to the policy subcommittee. I just
Oh,
think
good, because I have a lot of questions.
there are some places where I think despite people's best efforts, there's some lack of clarity and some things that could likely be addressed in this policy. And I know we talked about it at length in our last January meeting, and just walking away from that, I just felt like it might be worth having the subcommittee take a look at it and bring it up to speed a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like in some areas, there's so much detail where it becomes almost cumbersome, and then in other areas, I was like, oh, I kind of wish there was something else there. So, since the policy committee is here, are you guys willing to take that on and look at that at the next meeting? We'll make sure that we get you guys on the agenda for the next time.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you guys want to talk about while we're looking at it that you want to make sure that we all talk about, or you guys will go through it piecemeal when you're looking at it? Yeah?
Yeah, just,
I think some of it we had already started to discuss through that last field trip
Yep.
approval that we did. So I think we already have some ideas in our head of the
Okay.
direction we need to head.
All right. Okay then. So I'm wondering if we'll table that
Say,
to
do we go to enrollment?
Refer to
3:20.
subcommittee.
Yeah, 3:28 for subcommittee. So I'm wondering, does it make sense to kind of do some of the reports and come back to enrollment dashboard because it ties in with school choice? Or do you want to just look at enrollment dashboard now? Yeah, all right. Enrollment dashboard.
Yeah, so I do think enrollment dashboard does tie into school choice a little, but really for the purpose we've been using enrollment dashboard, this is just an update based on our numbers at the end of February. So some months we've had just people move in, some months we've had move in, move out. This month we had just move out. We had 4 students leave in one way or another. One was in pre-K that was receiving services only, so the student's no longer in the count. We had an 11th grade school choice student return to their home district, and 2 students move out of the town.
Okay. Questions or comments on the dashboard? Chandler? Okay. Audrey?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, superintendent's report.
So, just a brief update, the FY24 budget, again, I included this in the school committee update last week. Jen and Todd and I met with the town manager and select board chair Glenn Sexton last Wednesday. I don't want to speak for Todd and Jen, but I feel like it was a productive meeting. We shared our initial budget, and I guess for lack of a better term, like we call it a wish list budget, principals, department heads, build that on things that in an ideal world, if we could have those things, we would benefit from them. Obviously when you ask people for your wish list, you're probably going over and above what you may expect to receive, and I think that is certainly the case here. So we got some guidance from them in that meeting, and pretty much the next day, Todd and I and the leadership team began working to figure out where we are. We do have a fairly significant gap right now, and we just today sent the next iteration of that budget to the town manager. I shared a copy with Jen and Glenn as well, so that they are aware of the movement that we've made. One thing over the next 4 weeks you'll be sick of hearing me say is that the Operational Service Division applied an unprecedented 14% rate hike to out-of-district placements. That is a problem and a challenge for every district. I don't think I've heard many districts say like, oh, we're not worried about that. I think the impact to the budget is significant. Just to try to tell you in a glimpse how significant it might be. Last year we budgeted for 5 students to be out of district. This current year, 5 students to be out of district. We budgeted about $750,000 for those 5 students. Just the increase for those students is over $105,000 for that 14%. So just there alone, we're having $105,000 put on top of our budget before we've done a single thing. Since then, we have 2 students who have moved to out-of-district placements this current year. We have a 3rd awaiting a placement, and we've had 2 students move into town who are in out-of-district placements. Now, the 2 students who moved into town, we're not responsible for them this year, right now, and we're looking, can we bring them back? Can we meet their needs? But that's now an anticipated cost. It would not be good on us to leave that out of the budget and have to go back to the town. So we've included that in our budget. So our budget that was $750,000 for out-of-district placements now is closer to $1.2 million. Couple that with charter school out, we are paying about $1.6 million for less than 40 students, and the number's probably closer to 30, but less than 40 students, about $1.6 million. That's about 15% of our total budget for 40 students. And
That aren't even getting schooled here.
in some cases, like, that's based on a need. 100%, nothing we can do about that. We don't name that price. And I would say, and I know Jill in her role could speak to it, but not specifically to Granby, the process to move a student out of district isn't just one day we wake up and we can't meet this student's need. There are 4 or 5 or 6, or in some cases 10 steps before you're getting to this point to make the decision. It's not a decision made in haste. It's not a decision that's made easily. It's a really challenging district. We feel strongly that students are best served in their own community, but we're not always able to provide the least restrictive environment for those students where they can make gains. So I know I talked a lot about out of district and I threw a charter school curveball in there, but those numbers are astounding, and that's before we've done anything, added a teacher or added a paraprofessional or another support or another resource. So we're looking at an additional $600,000-$700,000 on our budget before we've really done anything else. And the other areas that are driving our budget in some way, shape, or form are utilities. You know, we're up about 20% in our electrical projections, up about 20% in our fuel projections. You know, that's another $60,000 to $70,000 on our budget. Obviously, contracts, and I think we've done a good job in being realistic with our contracts. It's not a huge driver. We plan for that. But, you know, those are some of those places that it's something outside of what we've done. And I think I sent it to you all. I just, before this meeting, sent an email to our our reps and state senator about that exactly, about for any district, it's gonna be a challenge, but in a town like Granby where, you know, all of a sudden, these 40 students are 15% of your budget, like, how does that impact the other 680, 700 students that we're responsible for? So, so there's certainly work to be done there. We're doing that work. We sent that to the town manager today, and we'll follow up in a couple of days and see if there's any feedback and continue that work as we prepare for public forum, which we have scheduled for 6 o'clock on Tuesday, March 28th. Public forum is, will be here at East Meadow. We would encourage any community member or any person related to the schools, connected to the schools, to come if they have questions or want to give feedback on our budget. That's the opportunity where we can have some back and forth at the public forum. The following week, we have planned the budget public hearing. That is really more like our final budget presentation. We've gotten feedback, we've heard some questions, we've made some changes, and that's what we're sharing with the community. And then we anticipate that the school committee will vote on our FY24 budget on Tuesday, April 11th, in anticipation of the Monday, May 8th annual town meeting. So it feels tight. It's a tight timeline. I think part of it is the governor's budget was pushed back 6 weeks because we had a new governor. So we did some work up front, but then we were in limbo for a little while. So certainly something that we can have conversations about, and we will have conversations about, but those are some things related. And then the other thing that we'll have to do tonight is pick that date that we want to meet with FinCom. We had 4 dates held. One was tonight, so obviously that one's not going to work, but next Wednesday, Thursday, and the following Thursday are dates that we held. So we're just going to have to confirm that so we can get that posted. I will let you know that Mr. Libera today reached out and included me to Kathy Leonard and requested that the FinCom meeting be posted as a virtual meeting. So I don't know if any of them will be in person. I know one member is out of state and they want to have that member included. So for our scheduling purposes, we'd have to decide if we're going to be in person or virtual, and we can find out if any of them would be in person. Also just want to throw out a reminder, I put it in the last few school committee updates, but this for the community as well, that nomination papers for town elections have been available since the end of January. And there have been notices out in local newspapers and on the website, but they can be picked up at the town hall. The last day to take out nomination papers is Thursday, March 23rd, so next Thursday, and they must be returned to the town clerk's office by Monday, March 27th at 5 p.m. And the town clerk reminds us that people who plan to run need to acquire 30 signatures to get on the ballot. That's all I have.
So one of the things, it's more of just a comment, but the charter school thing is astounding. It seems like, do their tuitions go up every year? Are they mandated to, like, because we're paying what their tuitions are.
And those aren't set by
anybody.
Us, right?
Right, and we have to pay the full, unlike school choice, right?
Yeah, and there is some charter school reimbursement, but
it's fairly small.
yeah, so our charter school out number went from 370 up to about 419. And our charter school reimbursement went from 110 to 112,000. So we saw about a $70,000 increase in the cost and about a $2,000 increase in the reimbursement.
Awesome. Okay. Anyway, any other questions or comments for Mr. Sullivan? Finance and operations?
Mr. Sullivan just covered the big chunk of it, and with the transportation contract is the other piece of that.
Okay. All right. Do you mind if we go backwards and come back to you?
I don't have anything anyway.
Okay, we'll look at
We
that.
meet Wednesday,
Oh,
but well,
Not
whatever,
tonight.
no, the 29th
okay.
or 8th or whatever Wednesday that is.
All right. So, back to school choice. School choice. Let's get into the right folder again, somehow I got out.
So, we do have a 23-24 school choice proposal form. I did ask both principals to be here. Ms. Desjardins and Ms. Jordan are both here. If you have specific questions, I think one thing that I noticed is in the past when we were talking about these proposals, we were in the 60s, 70s, 80s in terms of numbers that seats we were opening. We are proposing only 23 seats district-wide right now. I do think the committee might want to take two separate votes, one to vote to participate in the school choice program, and then a vote based on the numbers for each grade level. I also think one thing for us to consider is how and when we might revisit this, because again, just like our budget, we're basing these numbers on projections, so those things can change in our favor or out of our favor. So, you know, I'm certainly happy to put it on an agenda if I notice something coming up, but I think an August or early September meeting, once we kind of have a better idea of where we stand to start the school year, it might be a good idea if there might be some flexibility to bring this back to the committee,
I feel like
unless
we
the
did-
committee wants to explore other ways.
I do think we should do the two separate votes, and I think we have been talking about school choice later again in the summer, just kind of revisiting, making
Yeah.
sure. So I would do that. So first, I would say let's, to make it easy and bookkeeping wise, why don't we have the vote to participate within school choice, have that be its own little discussion right now and get that vote sort of taken care of, and then we can get into the discussion about seats and why we're looking at seats the way that we are. So with that, is there any discussion about participating in the school choice program? If not, I will take the motion to participate in the school choice program.
I'll make the motion to participate in the school choice program for the 2023-2024 school year.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, now for the fun part. School choice. I am, for the sake of argument, going to talk about the upper grades first, those in the high school, 7 through 12,
You want Ms.
because I
Jordan to
think
come
it's a
up?
little less contentious.
Do you want Ms. Jordan to come up?
Yeah, sure. Come on up.
So just a couple of things to note, right? We just looked at the enrollment dashboard. I think it's worth noting the projected enrollment for next year. This month, we're at 728. This is not apples to apples. This does not include pre-K, which does get included in that count. Services only get included in that count. But it also assumes that all 41 residents that had filled out the census would be attending. So there's some areas where, again, we might have to come back and revisit things.
Can I just ask an additional question? So going from the enrollment dashboard with any school choice seats remaining from this current school year, has that been factored into the proposed seats moving forward for next year?
Funny you should say that, because I was trying to look it up too. I was
Good
like,
question. No, I don't think that has been. So if I understand your question correctly, if there was an open seat in, say, grade 9 this year that's filled between now and the end of the year,
Yeah.
would that mean grade 10 next year would only have one seat and not two seats?
Right, because for an example, like currently grade 4 has 6 school choice seats remaining. And then if you were to look for next year where that is, would be grade 5. I just want to make sure, that could look so.
Yeah. And there's none open in grade 5 because I think when we voted on this originally, we've had some move-ins and things like that. So it's a fair question, and I think the other question that connects to that is, should there be a point, and superintendents have this conversation as well, and the state has not set it up that way, should there be a point in the year where we no longer accept school choice because we're beginning to budget for the next year and anticipate openings for the next year? And that might be a different discussion, but obviously it's connected.
I'm just gonna say, since, Lisa, why don't you just come up and join us at the table? I feel like it'll be just easier, and rather than trying to keep it completely separate, it's probably, so for me,
Right here.
I'm just looking like at the upperclassmen, and if I'm understanding, I'm gonna take the future grade 12, current juniors, saying only 2 proposed school choice seats available, which would bring that class to 49. So that class is fundamentally smaller than the class that's graduating right now of 54 or 57 or whatever. And I'm wondering why, if we've had this discussion now a few times, because if we're saying we can't accept a senior because of graduation requirements, yet if a senior moved into town, we're automatically have to take that senior. To me, that's a disconnect. And I don't understand why we wouldn't allow a class to be bigger than 49. We're clearly capable of having a class that's bigger than 49 when we're graduating classes the past few years well into the 50s. So it's opening seats. I don't think we're going to have a rush on seniors that are applying necessarily. So I'm just wondering where that comes from. For only 2 for the senior class and 1 for the junior class. Are we saying that we want to keep our graduating classes below 50?
No, not at all. I pulled those numbers for you, so we have the numbers of leftover seats from last year. We have on a sheet. So we took 1 senior in last year. And yes, I think there's looking at the number 50 when it comes down to offering 2 sections of English 12, right? You have 25 per class, and you add 5, and then you're looking at, breaking that down into 2 sections. So 25 is a solid number.
Right. But I mean, if you're looking at that, what is your, I'm just basing it on what I know for this year's seniors class.
Mhm.
English 12 is not at 25 because a lot of those kids took HCC English or took AP English, which is not the same as English 12. So if you're looking at what you're offering, what your course selection is offering, to me, I just don't want to get to the point where we're saying 50 is our number, because I don't want to see us pigeonhole ourselves to say our graduating class can't be any bigger than 50, because it's sort of where we're hovering, but we're certainly capable of having bigger classes than that.
Right, and I think we could certainly grow from having residents move in too.
Right.
And we're trying to be mindful of that. We had a lot of residents. How much did you say we had move in this year?
69 students move in from June to August this year.
So we noticed a big increase in, I think, in preparing for that and looking at who's going out and who's coming in. We could offer 10 spots in grade 12 and we could get 1.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I'm trying to be realistic too and I'm happy to adjust those numbers and really come back to the table as we discussed. I'm looking at the month of August the way we experienced it last year, and we were scrambling because we had so many come in. And I have the breakdown per grade level as well, and
So your thinking is really to kind of try to stay around 50 in terms of where you would put your school choice numbers, allowing for that fluctuation of resident numbers to, you know, go above or below slightly in terms of thinking about course offerings and things like that too, and staffing and all of that.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into why the number is 1, right? Could it be 4? Sure, it could be 4. I think that's where we'll know more come June, because you notice when school years end, that's when you start to see the trend of people applying for school. And then we'll notice again in August, in late August. So there's like 4 weeks right there where we could come back to the table, you know, and say, hey, we have a lot of interest in this grade level. Can we, you know, could you vote to open up more seats? But as of right now, looking at scheduling, and we're in an okay place with scheduling right now, considering all those things, as you mentioned, I think that number could read 1, 2, or 3 right now. And I actually chicken scratched it out because one of the numbers was off and added a 2 as I was sitting
We're
here.
also been thoughtful about like some budget projections as we're talking about some of the challenges with the budget and what that looks like. And this year's budget was built from the state on an increase of 9 students from what we had last year. And next year with this 666 versus the 728, what might that budget be built off? And those are some unknowns as well, but factors that we're trying to be cognizant of.
So like overall, like total wise, so for grade 7, we took in 2. Grade 8, we took in 1.
This current year, you're saying?
This current year. Grade 9, we took in 3. 10 was 2. 11 was 1. And 12 was 1.
That was resident?
And those were school choice. Residents moving in, so it would have been 9 in grade 7. And those are things that we have to prepare for. We had a big, right? Sorry, that's inaccurate. Some of them were already here. So when we look at the amount of new students that came in, we use those numbers based on how we moved forward with these ones. So each grade level had, I think the one that had the most move in, I think it was in the junior high. Because our high school grades, we don't see a lot of movement in high school. I think this year we had maybe 6 total for us spread across the grades. But again, our bigger numbers were people moving in, families. So I would be comfortable adjusting them, give or take 1 or 2 here and there. But the one that we did have marked for the most was grade 7, because that's the lowest class that Lisa has here right now. So there's 45, and we've already done some scheduling where we're having 2 sections of grade 7 and 3 sections of grade 8. So when you're planning that out and you have 2 sections of grade 7 and they're sitting at whatever the half of that number is, any other body that you add in is like your classes are starting to grow a little bit, and that's not anticipating any families moving in. So I think there's a lot to consider, and again, it's super flexible. It's almost premature in a way to put numbers out there when we don't have the end result of the budget and the end result of scheduling. But we had to submit some numbers, and there was a lot of thought, and a lot of it's based on projection, but certainly flexible.
Any other questions for 7 through 12?
No, I can appreciate trying to be, especially in kind of looking where we've gone and the conversations that we've had over the years, even since I've been part of things here. Like, it's revisiting things, I think, is a much easier way to talk about adding than it is to propose something that, now you're living with. And especially, again, kind of giving the budget conversation and everything else. Like, I think it's wise to kind of be mindful of where we are sitting around that 50. And we've always, again, it's easier to maybe see at the elementary level in terms of not building additional classrooms for students for school choice numbers. But I think, when you're talking about 2 sections versus 3 sections, you can still see it you know, at the secondary level as well, and to be careful about that.
My only thing is that it just striking to me, the biggest thing is that we're starting to build and have our classes sort of live at 50. And that to me is like, you know, we have the ability to be bigger, and I don't want to.
Well, next year's sixth grade, they're still proposing 3 seats.
Well, yeah, all the East
But-
Meadow classes are closer to 60.
Right, but what we've seen traditionally is we're bigger in the elementary grades, and then when we get to the high school, everyone leaves. Right?
So
And-
with knowing that we have students that's factored in as well. Like we know students have plans for whatever the reason may be, if they're going to charter, or if they're going, they're in DCF custody and they need to, you know, they're being placed in a different place. Like those are all things that we consider when looking
Right.
at some of these numbers.
That's my only thing. I appreciate and understand what you're saying. I just don't want to start to pigeonhole ourselves
Sure.
in the upper grades that we're saying the class of 50 is more than we can handle. Like, that's what we can handle. So,
Right.
you know, and we see it, we know people are coming in, but a lot of times when residents move in, if their kid's going, an upperclassman, they're gonna try to school choice
Mhm.
and stay in their home district,
Mhm.
right? So, to me, it's more about the size of our graduating classes that we're doing that, because we don't see a ton of movement in the upper grades, like upperclassmen. And so, you know, and at school choice applications, you know, clearly I'm in the minority, so we can move on.
No, I think it's great conversation, just to give you a snippet of what we did last year, okay? Because I think, Jill, you had asked. In grade 7, you voted on 6. We have 4 remaining. I
So
know
it means we got 2.
Yep, and I gave you some of those breakdowns. So I'll give you the breakdown of what we have left. So in grade 8, we have 12. In grade 9, we have 7. Grade 10, we have 15. Grade 11, we have 11. In grade 12, we have 3. So when we look at building our numbers, it doesn't hurt anything to have extra seats. I get that, right? It doesn't hurt anything. I'm not saying, trust me, I'd love to build and add in 100 more kids, right? But I think it's a good starting point. Like I said, I'm happy to adjust by a couple here and there if we want to round them up to 3 or round them up to 4 or something like that. I'm happy to do that. I just know I have a plan in place in June and then again in August, that if we can come back to the table, I just want to see the feelers will start to come in. I've already had a family reach out that they're interested in grade 9. So right now, if we have 3, then we have 2 left. So there is a piece that does make it super competitive when your numbers are lower. A marketing tactic, if you will, but I think that I'm happy to adjust them. I'm not looking to, put us in a place where we're refusing students. We certainly don't want to be in that place. We never have refused students, to my understanding.
In the high school.
Right.
Just a quick question, after you shared how many seats were remaining from this year,
Mhm.
you had said in grade 7 there was how many seats remaining?
I have 4 written down.
So just like in my head, so that would mean on here, which would now be grade 8, obviously, so we didn't get anybody in for those seats, so now we're kind of going forth with like a new plan, which you probably worked on to decide where you were at for this year, right? So it's not whatever's left over plus this number, like these are the
Correct.
new final numbers, right?
Correct, because it would be 7 if
Right.
we added.
Because the ones where it was like 11, 12, and whatever, those numbers, clearly none of those are
Yeah.
there, so.
They're a bit bananas. They're high, but you never know. Like I said, we had more residents come in last year than anything.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't like adding to, like these are our new final numbers that we're proposing.
Yeah, what's in the past is in the
Overall.
past. If
Right.
whatever's not used is not
Yep.
used. All right, so we,
But I guess
Just so
that's-
people are aware, no matter what's voted on tonight in terms of numbers, no student would be accepted until mid to late June, because you need to let the application process play out. If there's more applicants than there were seats, there would have to be a lottery.
Opposed to
So
siblings first, right?
siblings have preference. So if you voted on 4 seats in second grade tonight, and you have 4 residents enroll for next year, you could vote before any lottery and adjust that as well.
And I have one additional question.
Because this is just our internal, the state doesn't care how many seats are open or not open, we just need to vote whether we're participating or not.
Which
So-
we already did.
Right, so the numbers could change based on more information June, because nobody from school choice would be accepted until whatever that first lottery date, that, it has to be before July 1st, I think it's late.
And then it's people leaving too, so that's where, if people are moving out of town or whatever else, they don't often tell us until right before the school year, so, we're thinking that, grade 2, for example, has 46 residents, but when it comes right down to it, we could have 40 residents, so then that number looks completely different.
Right.
So, all right,
Sorry, Jill, I think-
Yeah, I was gonna say Jill had a question.
My one other question is, with the previous school choice seats, if there isn't an end date or a closing date for those, does that mean the ability to apply for those seats stays open until July 1, meaning like if
Last day of school.
last day of school? Okay, so if for some reason there,
So you could take a vote tonight to close it at a certain date if you wanted to.
And
Which
I
I don't
don't-
think is the worst practice. I know in some places that in order to get a child into a certain program in a certain town, families will apply for school choice like the last week of school. And then if accepted, they're then eligible to go to that vocational school or be a part of that pathway, whatever it might be.
If we close that one, would that make this one then adopted for this year?
Nope.
Okay.
so when do we technically open our school choice seats in the applications?
So we would open applications as soon as we know the numbers, we post it, people can submit, but nobody's accepted, there's nothing done until if there's a lottery, they have to be informed by July 1st, I think.
So like one of the things
Yeah.
we've wanted to have conversations with Donna about kindergarten, Donna from Children First, because
I
we
believe
have,
have.
we have 41 residents, but of those residents,
That's,
how many
you're
are,
at first grade.
no, we have a kindergarten class here that's starting for 41.
I
That's
know,
just
but the
based
one-
on census numbers. We don't know how many of them are going to Children First.
Very true.
Did
I thought
check
you
that,
meant for the
Lisa? I
ones
thought
coming
we
back.
had followed up on that.
On how many,
How many pre-K that Children First might have coming in for K next year?
I don't have that
I
information.
thought you
Yeah.
reached out.
I have a
I
sense of
think
what,
in Jen saying how many would stay at Children First 4K.
Right. I
Right.
think that number is very low, but I'll.
Well, they have
double
they have a
check.
small class, but I mean, it's the same for everything else. She doesn't know, people,
I thought at one point we said they had like 6 or something of ours this year. I thought 4 or 6.
yes, there was like 4 or 5 that were coming in. Or maybe it was this year's first grade.
Right.
Um,
Oh, I don't remember.
But anyway, I'm just saying, like, we have these numbers, and again, if everything is a play and we can revisit, because if we're saying we've got 41 residents, we're basing that number on the census, which is what the little asterisk says. But we don't know how many of them are actually going to come here. Some of them could end up at, a private school other than Children First,
Well, the caveat with that K group, though, is the same as what would be going into first grade, is we have to realize there's potential for them coming back. So, and we had that caveat, too, of how many rooms we have. We
Mhm.
needed to keep a cluster
Oh, I understand. I'm just
low.
saying, like, the whole thing,
I think that's why it's at 0 for
Right.
K.
And, oh, if I could just add in, we did registrations last week, and right now, we're currently at around 40 registrations, and we know there's still some out there who haven't registered. I
Well,
do,
according to this number, should only be one, right?
But this number was from.
Oh, 2022 census, right, okay.
yeah, we'll get the current census data next week, but I do believe there were some conversations, I don't want to say for sure, between the lower elementary teachers with Children's First. So I think we know of some kids that will be coming, but I don't have definitive data on that tonight.
Yeah, we can just ask Donna, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Would you be okay if, not to circle back to the high school, but would you be okay if we added 2 seats to grade 8? And the only reason why I say that from 0 to 2 is because we changed on our scheduling. We were originally running 2 sections of grade 8. We changed it to 3. And that was as of a day ago. So if we could add that, because that can accommodate more.
Sure.
Let
So
me
that's
know.
the 55,
Yeah.
that's the current grade 7.
Yes. Yep.
It's fine by me, yeah. So, other questions?
My only other question is around that grade 1. I know the number is only 35. But then I start doing that math of, kids move in, you never know when. It's again that question of, do we need to keep it small? Or is another conversation obviously going to potentially come back up in the future if it ends up where it's not small?
Well, I think we need it small because we need the room with the other
Right,
larger
but we're
classes,
proposing
right?
3 seats. And I recognize that we've gotten some reach out from some parents that have siblings, and I recognize that as well.
But that was,
Um,
I think those are both kindergarten, the parents that have reached out, aren't
We've
they?
heard from some first.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
K.
But even K would be next year's ones, right, is my understanding.
Mhm.
So, it's gonna be what it's gonna
Yeah,
be,
the
but we,
35 is this year's K.
right, but we know that according to the census, the next few years do start to increase again. So it becomes that battle of, are we really trying to keep that grade low and keep 6 here, or let it play out? I know. So,
Yeah,
anyway,
I
I mean,
think-
I'm not opposed to the 3,
We
but
talked
it's
about
playing
0
that
at
game.
that
I know.
grade. We talked about 2 at that grade. Like, yeah, what's the right number on May 15th? Is a fair question to ask. And I think,
I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, like, we don't
Right.
know what the future brings, I get that.
right,
I'm seeing the second grade 2 with 4 seats available to me. I'd rather, that one seems pretty big already, and keep that at 2 classrooms and have room in the, like.
55 is too big for 2 classes.
it's already
Okay,
3.
it's already 3, got it. But then that's the problem that we've run into before with the space.
Right, or are you having a whole class of non-resident?
Yeah, I think it's grade 2 and grade 5 are the examples of what we're trying to avoid in our conservative approach.
Right.
We also recognize our conservative approach has impacts elsewhere. We might not get
Absolutely,
as much
and
money in school choice.
I know, exactly, and that's
We
that
might
double-edged
lose
sword right
siblings.
there.
We,
Yep, correct, for sure.
and again, we're already looking at enrollment
Down quite a bit.
down quite a, again, it's not apples to apples. I think this number is, that 666 number is really probably closer to 700 when you add in, the pre-K and some other things too, but it's a reduction from where we are right now.
I mean, for that matter, as I look at it, we're not proposing any for grade 5. right?
Right.
And I know they're already such a large, oh, they are, gosh. I don't know, it's like, again, it's one of those scenarios of where we do have, for grade 4 is what I actually meant to say, where we already have the 3 classrooms and it's 58 kids. So that's 20, 20, and 21, right? Not even. 19, 19, and 20. It's like, are those the years that you want to have like 3 potentially in there and make it 20, 20, and 21? You know what I mean? And then, because that's a reasonable number, but then you don't know if someone's going to move in. Again, you,
Well, therein lies the problem, is the resident. I mean, if you just drive around town, the amount of construction is crazy. You know, and they're not retirement homes. These are like, and they're not starter homes, they're like family
well,
homes.
that's what I was gonna. That's the right word I was gonna say. I'm like, yeah, but for who? You know?
They're built
yeah.
for families,
Yeah.
you know, so, and I felt like I said this years ago, I'm on camera in a joint meeting, if you build it, they will come. And I was, you know, if we build this brand new school, we're gonna get people to want to come here, and it's true. People want to come because we're the newest elementary school around in this area. People want to come and be a part of it, which is great. But we, it does tie our hands a bit because we don't know the resident game. Like, it's a game. It's a game every year.
Yeah, there's just so many layers, and we've touched on all of them, right? The siblings who are already here, move-ins, move-outs, the capacity issue that we've talked about, like, all plays into, like, what we might be able to do here. Like, our budget is what we bring in for school choice versus what's going out for school choice. Those numbers start to become even, then, you know, if you make up for them in resident enrollment, the financial gap isn't as steep. But if you start to say, all right, now we have choice in and choice out are balanced, and our resident enrollment is level, then you start to see like a reduction in funding. So there are layers to this. There's no easy answers. I think this is a place where our size is an advantage and a disadvantage to us, because it is 1 or 2 students that could push you over the edge to having to open up a new classroom or program. And
Right. I guess that would be my only suggestion, is that one grade, you know what I mean? Of, did we want to open a couple potentially? Because again, it would help on that notion of, like Jen saying, as they move up. I don't know if we had any that were offered this past year.
in grade,
4.
Current grade 3.
so current
3.
grade 3.
Current grade 3, but on this chart it was grade 4. There, again,
Thank you.
in the mindset of like keeping it at 20, 20, and 20, you know what I mean?
Current
Of,
grade 3
But
says
then-
proposed.
but then obviously you could have it move in, but even if they moved in to have 22 kids, like, it's not horrendous. Do you know what I mean? Like,
So it looks like current grade 3, if I'm reading it correctly, for 22, 23, there were 5 seats open, 2 applications, 1 accepted, and had 4 seats still open.
I mean, and obviously nobody might be interested, but
I mean, I'd be okay with adding in 3 more seats so that.
I'm even saying 2, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they could feasibly be at 21, 21, 21.
Well, I'm happy with like a 20 and then leave the rest for like potential growth of people moving in. Because it is one of those, like, you know, even if 3 move in, that's 1 per class, like, is kind of how it goes. Or,
Mhm.
in an ideal world, I know that doesn't happen either. Because, they all three move in and they all have IEPs or, whatever, I get it. Or EL or wherever the services are needed, but. Otherwise, I'm good, even with the K, because I ultimately realize that we're going to look at this again. So to spend an hour mulling this over right now when we're going to look at it again.
But potentially 2 more times. I'd say I think I'd like to look at it in June, right after the school year.
Put it in for May.
Oh, that's fine.
We
May
could
is
do
fine. I just think we probably won't have much movement. It's like, we usually hear about it right after the school year ends. So when do people have to notify us?
They'll start applying, people already started applying based on last year's application. So we now have we basically shut down last year's application, but when you click on it, it says, if you're interested for the 22-23 school year, contact us directly.
23-24.
No, 22-23. So
That's
like
what-
if they're trying to
So
apply
this
for
is
next
year.
year on this year's, they can't do that anymore. It sends them back to reach out to us directly. But we would likely have an application set up by the end of the week, posted on the website, and make it available. We could call this 23-24 anticipated school choice openings,
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
and then revisit it in May, June, and then give a firmer number, because applications can start rolling in, and I think we can just talk to the leadership team and Jackie and Nat and Caitlin here to say, these are anticipated openings, they're gonna be revisited based on the numbers that we have, on or about June 1st.
I wish there was a way that we didn't have to put number of seats and just see where the applications come in.
We don't have to put number of seats. That's an internal practice.
Well, I mean, I think
I think we need to figure it out,
Yeah.
but I think part of the reason we've done it is to say, we know we're not gonna have seats in certain grades, so if people apply there, we're notifying them so that they can start to find other plans, where these are anticipated seats in Granby, you can certainly apply, but there's no guarantee that they're gonna be open, and that is a little shift in what we've done, so we could put that out there and explain to people that, there's no promise that there will be 4 seats in grade 2, it could be 6 seats, it could be 1 seat.
Right.
But we're accepting applications, the lottery wouldn't be held until late June anyway, so nothing is happening in terms of notifying families other than that we received their application until late June.
So we can just potentially let them know that we're accepting applications for the following grades and list the grade levels.
Yep.
I have 2 follow-ups that just kind of popped in my head, is that when we are including these resident, non-resident enrollment, this includes all of the students' grade levels that we have and cover in our building, even if they're not full-time in a particular classroom, correct? Like, that's how we view it. We don't take any of that out separately either. Because the other part I feel like we didn't comment on, but I want to make sure to recognize is that here I am saying, hey, I think we could add 2 more. And I want to recognize and know that you guys are looking at this very thoughtfully, that know the students that are in those classrooms. We don't.
Yeah.
So obviously if it becomes that part where, it should be 0, I respect that too. And I want to acknowledge that because, we are looking at numbers on a paper, but I realize that there are individual personalities and bodies and all of that too, that are attached to that. So,
Absolutely.
I just want to make a note of that.
So what I have, based on what Jill said, we could put something like, we're accepting applications for the following grades, list the grades, the final number of openings will be determined on or about June 1st. Or
Well, I
can
wouldn't
look
say
at one
final,
of
because
our-
we said we were gonna look at it again in August, so.
But August sets up a whole new lottery. That lottery needs to be held by November 1st, so we're in a whole new lottery season, so we can adjust again then.
So our only adjustment at this point is potentially the couple in 8th?
I
Yeah.
think I heard Jill's suggestion is not attaching a number to any grades unless I'm wrong.
Yeah, but you were opening a couple seats, so that would include grade
Right,
8.
so.
Yeah, because right now grade 8 has 0, and she's saying we could put,
Yep,
Something.
Right, and like it's a tough part, premature again, because we'll find out if there are students choicing or going to Pathfinder in a few weeks. So it's like you always treat, we know that there are 4 interested, are the 4 really gonna go? And then sometimes we get some that come back.
that's for grade 9.
That's for grade 9, right?
and then we know that in the 8th grade class, I know of at least 3 kids that are looking at options other than Pathfinder. So,
Right.
well, 2 of them are Smith Voc, so I don't know if they'll be accepted, but that's that becomes we're paying for them regardless, right? Don't we still have to school choice them out?
If they're accepted and
It's like
apply to us by April 1st.
So, I'm comfortable with the way we have that. Do we need to vote on that part? Not really, because it's not,
I would just make a vote to say, similar to what Jill said, that
we're gonna
this
post those seats.
time, we're gonna open up the school choice applications for the following grades and determine final numbers no later than our first meeting in June.
And should we add the 2 seats to 3rd grade, given our conversation?
Well, in this scenario, we could add 1 seat, because all we're saying is that we're open in that grade.
True. Okay.
I mean, all of these numbers technically could be 1, because I think what we're saying now is,
Mhm.
we're opening for applications here, and we're gonna revisit it, and,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take away
no, I'm not.
this
suggesting-
conversation piece.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's valuable. I think it's good to really be looking at those numbers. All that thoughtfulness we've put into of keeping a couple classes small so that we could keep 6th grade here if without creating an entire class of non-resident students also. But at the same time, like I said, I do want to be respectful of whether or not, we don't change it. Obviously, it was thoughtfully proposed in this way too. So I am fine to accept it as it is, even.
And we're gonna revisit, so,
Right.
oh, that made it worse.
But I'm not making the motion.
It sounds like for now, maybe opening the grade 3 is an okay thing.
Mhm.
And then we can always,
Grade 3 or grade 4? Grade 3 is already at 60.
It was grade 4 that I was
sorry,
talking about.
grade 4.
Sorry.
And then we can always
Grade 4 for next year.
determine the numbers.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, this is all next year.
just to make sure we're on the
So
same
I
page.
would like to make a motion then to propose opening anticipated school choice seats with a final number to be determined no later than our first June meeting for the following grades of 1st, 2nd, 4th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th.
For 22, 23.
For the 2020
24 school year.
2023, 2024 school year. So close.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I think I have to do the squint because I smudged my glasses and I can't see. I think that's it, right?
Executive session, yep.
Right. Is there anything else before we move to go into executive session?
Our next meeting
Is the 28th.
is not one where we need to worry about subgroups or anything.
Policy.
We are doing
It'll be
that?
policy and finance.
And
Okay.
we also have public.
Because we
forum
usually do
Monday.
them beginning of the month, but we missed that meeting, so that's where my head kind of was for a second. And we're doing all the scholarships too on the 28th?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Project
Ooh,
351.
that's gonna be tough with the public forum, and then, we gotta make sure because we're gonna have guests for that.
Be half our audience.
That's the way to combine everything together.
Right? That's all the 28th?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it
Project
still a
351,
6:30?
6 is
6
the public
p.m.
forum.
I'm just
6
reminding everybody, 6
to 6:30
p.m.
is the public forum.
I'm gonna have to work
I
from
love to
home.
ask questions that I already know the answer to. It's my fave. Just clarifying. Thanks.
All right. With that, we're going to vote to enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Part A3, to discuss strategy with regard to collective bargaining, as doing so in an open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee. The committee will not return to open session.
Ms. Bartos.
Aye.
Ms. Delafier.
Aye.
Mr. Belfi.
Aye.
Ms. Hudak.
Yes.